Welcome to the Familiarisation and Planning series, designed to introduce curriculum leaders and teachers to the Australian Curriculum version 9.0, HASS P6. In this first session in the series, we will be focusing on the Understand This Learning Area section of the curriculum, before moving on to discuss the curriculum elements in Session 2. The final session in the series will address planning considerations for Australian Curriculum version 9.0. The QCAA acknowledges the traditional owners and traditional custodians of the lands on which we meet today. We pay our respects to their elders and their descendants who continue cultural and spiritual connections to country, and we extend that respect to Aboriginal people and Torres Strait Islander people here today. We thank them for sharing their cultures and spiritualities and recognise the important contribution of this knowledge to our understanding of this place which we call home. Today's learning goal is to understand implications of changes to the Australian Curriculum version 9.0, HASS P6, to plan for the transition in your own context. At the end of today's session, you will know you are successful if you have more knowledge about the intent and structure of the Australian Curriculum version 9.0, HASS P6, and can identify actions for planning in your school. This recording is accompanied by a worksheet for you to record your responses to the activities and reflection points throughout the presentation. If you have not already done so, please take some time now to download or print the Session 1 outline resource. Outlined on screen, you can see there are 3 parts in this session. We will begin with an overview of the Australian Curriculum version 9. We will then unpack the Understand This Learning Area section of the curriculum, highlighting the changes in version 9. Finally, we will consider what these changes mean for you in your context and start formulating some next steps to take following the session. We'll start by orienting ourselves to the process of moving to a new curriculum and the purpose and structure of the Australian Curriculum version 9. Knowing what drives our curriculum helps us to contextualise HASS and transition our plans to the new version. Firstly, let's consider what the process of moving to Australian Curriculum version 9 might look like in your context. You may have identified a process like that outlined on screen now. This might mean that you want to reflect on current programs to identify strengths, limitations, and opportunities. Review and audit your current programs against the Australian Curriculum version 9 to discern what is the same and what will be different from your current practice. Ultimately, once you have completed your reflection and auditing, you can start to make some decisions about how much you need to refine, realign, reimagine or remove aspects of your current plans to align with the Australian Curriculum version 9. This session will help you frame up the work that needs to be done to make sure you and your colleagues are ready for the change. We are going to be looking at the specific elements of the curriculum that will need to be considered for your teaching, learning and assessment. Keep your current programs in mind as we work through these elements. Think about the challenges and opportunities of version 9 for your school context. Let's start that process now by reflecting on your current programs and evaluating what you want to keep and what you might like to change. Therefore, your first action today is to consider those elements that you know are working well. Reflect. Can you still see a place for them in the version 9 curriculum for HASS P6? And those parts of your plan that you are looking for an opportunity to review. Reflect. How can the revised curriculum support you to make these adjustments to your programs? As we now navigate the changes in Australian Curriculum version 9 for HASS P6, try to keep these reflections front of mind. Let's turn our attention to the curriculum itself. While there are changes in the revised HASS P6 curriculum, the three-dimensional interrelated structure of the Australian curriculum has not changed as part of the review. The diagram on screen visually represents these three dimensions. The Australian curriculum consists of 8 learning areas, with humanities and social sciences in red. Then there are the 7 general capabilities: literacy, numeracy, digital literacy, critical and creative thinking, personal and social capability, intercultural understanding, and ethical understanding. You'll notice the name change of the ICT general capability to digital literacy to reflect current understandings in the field. The general capabilities have been refined with changes to elements, sub-elements, and continua. And finally, there are the 3 cross-curriculum priorities: Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander histories and cultures, Asia and Australia's engagement with Asia, and sustainability. When reflecting on how you are going to transition your current plan for teaching and learning, consider what opportunities exist to make connections across the dimensions. The Humanities and Social Sciences learning area is now displayed. There are 5 subjects within the HASS learning area, beginning with HASS P6. Now that we know where HASS P6 is in the 3-dimensional representation of the curriculum, let's look at its structure, which helps us to organise our teaching, learning and assessment. Each learning area in version 9 now follows a similar structure, allowing for more consistency when planning. The Understand This Learning Area document provides detail of the intent and a snapshot of the structure. The curriculum elements show the content. On screen, you can see an overview of version 8.4 compared to version 9.0 with the main changes noted. Let's break down these main changes now. In the organisation of the Australian curriculum in version 8.4, represented on the left, you will see that it is in 2 parts. The first part is Understand How This Learning Area Works, which included the rationale, aims, structure, and resources. The second part included specific elements about the HASS curriculum, such as the year level description, the achievement standard, strands and substrands, content descriptions, and content elaborations. Moving across to version 9 on the right, we can see the changes, especially in the language and grouping of ideas, helping to sharpen our understanding of what HASS P6 is. Version 9 begins with the Understand This Learning Area section, which provides detail of the intent and a snapshot of the structure. Following Understand This Learning Area is the Curriculum Elements section, which shows the content associated with HASS P6. Other variations between version 8.4 and version 9.0 are indicated by changes struck out, and, bolded in red, are the new sections which include the key considerations and key connections. These will, at different times, influence planning. Take a moment to review the changes in structure that we have just outlined. Understanding the structure of version 9 and the relationship between the parts is a key factor in strengthening our understanding of HASS P6 and the changes within it. You may wish to pause here to consider what will be important for you as you begin planning for version 9. We will now move on to our core focus for this session. It is the Understand This Learning Area section of the curriculum. On screen in the shaded box, you will see the sections that form Understand This Learning Area. We will work through each of these sections throughout the presentation. We will focus on the curriculum elements in the next session of the Familiarisation and Planning series. Our final session in the series will focus on planning using all of these aspects of the curriculum. As we work through each element of the Understand This Learning Area section for HASS P6 and the changes we can see in version 9, let's keep our process in mind. Here is where we can begin to audit our current plans and consider what is the same in Australian Curriculum version 9 and what is different. You may wish to construct your own note-taking template, like the one indicated on screen, to help you identify the similarities and differences you notice in Australian Curriculum Version 9 for HASS P6 as we move through the presentation. A table has been provided for you on the Session 1 outline resource referred to at the start of this recording. In the humanities and social sciences, there are two tiers of organisation: the Understand This Learning Area information for the whole learning area, and Understand This Learning Area information about each subject, including HASS P6. The links to both the whole learning area and the HASS P6 information are provided in the Session 1 outline resource. The Introduction to the Humanities and Social Science Learning Area explains when students are introduced to the disciplines of history, geography, civics and citizenship, and economics and business in HASS P6. We will now focus on the information specifically about HASS P6 and explore the rationale and aims to understand the intent of HASS P6. The rationale and aims capture why we teach HASS and reflect the vision and goals for education in Australia. In doing this, it's important to consider the relationship of the rationale and aims to the goals of education in Australia, as expressed in the Alice Springs Mbarntwe Education Declaration 2019. The vision is for a world-class education system that encourages and supports every student to be the very best they can be, no matter where they live or what kind of learning challenges they may face. With this in mind, the Declaration sets out two distinct but interrelated goals. The first of these goals is that the Australian education system promotes excellence and equity. Therefore, as we are planning for Australian Curriculum Version 9, we want to consider how our plans can enhance equity for all and promote the highest quality teaching, learning and assessment experiences for our students. The second goal from the Mbarntwe Education Declaration states that all young Australians become confident and creative individuals, successful lifelong learners and active and informed members of the community. The three dimensions of the curriculum and the learning area content presents wonderful opportunities to engage with this goal. So, what role does HASS P6 play in enacting these goals? Let's start by considering the rationale and aims. Go to the second link, Understand This Learning Area Version 9 HASS P6, in the companion session document where you found this recording. Alternatively, use your mobile device and the QR code on screen to access the HASS P6 rationale and aims. Review the rationale and the aims, identifying the big ideas and all main points. Reflect on your school's plans to evaluate how the goals of the Education Declaration and the curriculum are evident in that plan. Please pause the session recording to allow some time for you to review the rationale and aims for HASS P6. You may have reflected on details from the rationale, such as the importance of students developing a deep understanding of their world, past and present, and developing skills that enable students to question, think critically, consider perspectives, solve problems, make decisions, and communicate effectively. Now that we have looked at the intent of HASS P6, let's turn our attention to exploring the structure of content descriptions. This structure provides a way for you to consider the distinctive contribution HASS makes to Australia's goals for education and conceptualise the nature of learning in HASS P6. Firstly, in the Australian curriculum, HASS P6, the two strands are interrelated and should be taught in an integrated way. The Knowledge and Understanding strand provides the context through which the skills of HASS are developed. In each strand, there are sub-strands, under which are the content descriptions and the content elaborations. And just a reminder that the content elaborations are not the compulsory part of the curriculum, but are there to support teachers with ideas and examples. Let's now look at the substrands of each strand. In the Knowledge and Understanding strand, the substrands History and Geography are taught from Prep to Year 6, Civics and Citizenship from Year 3 to Year 6, and Economics and Business is introduced in Year 5 and Year 6. While the year level in which each substrand is introduced is the same as version 8.4 for the Knowledge and Understanding strand, there have been some refinements to the substrand structure for the Skills strand. In black text are the version 9.0 Skills substrands. In grey and with a strike through are the names of the substrands in the Australian Curriculum version 8.4. Specifically, some changes in the skills strand include reorganisation into 4 skills substrands, joining questioning and researching into one substrand, expanding the focus of the second substrand to include interpretation, analysis and evaluation, and removal of reflecting in the third substrand to now focus on concluding and decision-making. The skills substrand Communicating is retained, with refinement to this substrand at the content description level. The final sections of Understand This Learning area provide further support and advice for teachers when planning for version 9 in the Humanities and Social Sciences. On screen are the key considerations for HASS P6. This is a new section, consistent across all learning areas, and includes refined key ideas from version 8.4. It helps teachers think about teaching and learning specific to HASS. The first consideration is the use of inquiry questions, which provide a framework for developing students' knowledge, understanding, and skills. Examples of inquiry questions are provided for each year level in the level description. The second consideration is the flexibility and opportunity in the curriculum to connect learning across the HASS substrands and to make connections with other learning areas or subjects. For example, connections could be made between learning in the substrands of history and civics and citizenship when investigating significant individuals who contributed to Australia's democracy, or between the geography substrands of HASS and science when studying particular environments and ecosystems. The two new considerations in all learning areas, including HASS, are protocols for engaging First Nations Australians and meeting the needs of diverse learners. The key connections in the curriculum support teachers to integrate HASS with other learning areas or subjects, embed relevant general capabilities, and provide possible context for learning through the cross-curriculum priorities. This integration can enrich and deepen student engagement with learning area content. However, it should be considered only when it provides opportunities to strengthen learning area content where most appropriate and authentic. These QCAA resources identify the connections between the Australian curriculum learning areas and the general capabilities. Level overviews provide an overview of where the general capabilities can be developed or applied in the content descriptions. There are also continua for 5 of the general capabilities, which provide more detailed information about the capabilities in the form of elements and sub-elements. This resource provides a sequence of learning for the capability from Level 1 to Level 6. This can be helpful for teachers when catering for students with diverse needs. The QCAA has also developed advice documents to support teachers to use the literacy and numeracy progressions. These progressions provide observable indicators of increasing complexity in literacy and numeracy, which can help teachers to develop targeted teaching and learning plans for students who are working at, above, and below year-level expectations. These resources can support teaching teams to interrogate connections between the general capabilities and the learning area content in more detail. The final section of Understand This Learning Area provides further support and advice for teachers when planning for version 9 in HASS. Useful for developing shared understanding of terms used in the Australian Curriculum version 9 HASS P6 is the glossary. These definitions are examples from the HASS P6 glossary. What are the key messages from this section of the curriculum that have resonated with you? Take a moment now to note down your key messages from this session. Let's pause and recap what we have done in this first session in our Familiarisation and Planning series, and what can be done with the new knowledge to help us transition to version 9. Here is the summary of the sections of the curriculum we have covered in the first session. We have considered the intent of the curriculum by reviewing the introduction, rationale, and aims. Next, we examined the structural changes for HASS P6 by reviewing the strands and substrands. And finally, we reflected on some new elements to the curriculum by reviewing the key considerations, key connections, and resources associated with HASS. To finish this session, let's revisit the task we set ourselves as we began exploring the Understand This Learning Area section. What have you learnt in this first session about what is the same and what is different in HASS P6 version 9? Consider how the changes will inform your planning by reviewing the similarities and differences you have noted throughout the session. What actions will you take to help prepare your plans for version 9? For example, you may identify the following actions to support the transition to version 9 in your context. Download and read through the new section on key considerations, or organise time in your next year level or school meeting to review the changes to the skills substrands in teams. Pause the session recording at this point to reflect on the notes you have taken throughout the session. Identify 2 to 3 actions you will now take to plan for HASS P6 version 9 in your context. As the session comes to a close, let us reflect on our learning goal and success criteria. We have built our knowledge about Australian Curriculum version 9 HASS P6 and identified some actions for planning in our particular school context. Before you begin the next session in the series, you may wish to access QCAA resources at the location noted on screen to extend your curriculum knowledge. There are many version 9 resources located here that will support you in planning for the transition in your context. These can be accessed by going to the landing page for a particular learning area and then clicking on the Australian Curriculum version 9 tab. That concludes the first session and our discussion on the Understand This Learning Area section of Australian Curriculum version 9 for HASS P6. In the next session of our series on Familiarisation and Planning, we will be discussing the Curriculum Elements section displayed on screen. If you have any queries regarding the information from this session, please reach out to the K-10 Curriculum and Assessment branch with the contact details noted on screen. We thank you for your time in completing this session and look forward to working with you in Session 2 of the Familiarisation and Planning series. If you don't do so already, we recommend you follow QCAA on one or more social media platforms to stay in touch with us and to find out about upcoming resources and professional learning.